2 years after its release is when I finally actually got the time to play Deathloop, and it's been on my bucket list. I just wanted to play it, and I wasn't disappointed. And I think if you watch this, you can understand why this is still a treat event in 2023. You're probably thinking to yourself, why did I take 2 years to actually get to play Deathloop? But the answer to that is quite simple. I think it is better because of some of my procrastination, but also because Microsoft actually acquired Bethesda. So I'm not so sure that this catalog is gonna be available to PlayStation Network in the coming years. So I wanted to play Deathloop before it's too late. So I actually played it, and it was quite an enjoyable feast. And there's a lot of things I'm gonna talk about, but so far this is when I think Bethesda actually cared about making games, and that's why we're playing this, because it's a game that they actually cared about create. Deathloop is set in Black Reef Island, which is no Hawaii, by the way. And actually, to put it in a much more metaphorical manner, if Jesus turned water into wine, then the devil turned the water into poison in Black Reef Island. I mean, the minute you get there, you get the shock that a cat throughout its 9 lives has never had a bath before. So you can imagine that. So you actually die when you actually enter the water. So no deep sea diving, no exploration to that extent. So the water, keep away from it. Fear it like a cat. Also, Black Reef Island tends to be quite rocky. The terrain isn't quite eye candy, if you put it that way, and also no beaches. And also at the same time, you have to deal with rusting away pieces of machinery everywhere, which makes the island feel quite melancholic. And I could understand why Colt wouldn't want to spend eternity here. I mean, there are better places to spend eternity in, I guess. You start Deathloop, you think actually Julianna is a love interest or femme fatale, because she seems to be very quite familiar with you, and she seems to be a scorned lady. And Colt seems to have that effect on ladies, by the way. So I think he was expecting this was just an ex-girlfriend or some lady that he had angered. But in the end, you come to see that actually this is your daughter. So as a plot twist, I think this was just incredible. So kudos to the writers of the game. When it comes to Julianna, I think the saying that apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I think it reigns true here, because we see Julianna is actually a little bit impulsive, and also seems to be quite moody, and also gets angry at the same time. But I think she has a great sense of dark humor. I think that's partly because of Colt's doing.
Let's try something different. I want to. Okay, wait, how do I say this? I want to apologize to you.
Yeah, and?
That's it.
Of course it is.
Great. And now you better learn to duck, you sanctimonious prick. Otherwise, Igor is going to blow your fucking head off.
Also, if Colt is a tree in this metaphor, I think he is a burning bush, because he is crazy.
Oh, it's you.
Congrats! You killed him. Not really. Used to be me, sneaking a girl down here. Used to be I was the romantic.
Because I think you have to be a little bit crazy to actually kill your daughter and actually your best friend. So actually you can break a loop. I mean, people would actually want to spend eternity with them, with their best friends and their actual family. So I don't know, maybe he sees things differently, but I think the only thing that the Black Reef Island doesn't offer a Colt, and that is there is no like knowing what the new songs are. I mean, you're listening to the same songs, you're doing the same things over and over again, and I think life loses meaning when you can't die, because there's no consequences of even your actions. You know, you can get to do it over and over again. And maybe I think Colt understands that you have to let go, and you have to be detached to something. So I think this game is about detachment. I think Colt truly understands that. He understands he needs to be detached from everything, from his friends, and he knows that there's only places you are going to have to walk alone. I think that comes out clearly in this game. To be honest, I think Julianna actually played a role very well, because whenever you could hear her coming through the loudspeakers, you would know that she's here to pump you with enough lead to ensure that you're pushing your weight through the game. And I think she did that very well. I think I would always be, depending on the delicacy of the mission I'm on, and if I would hear her through the loudspeakers or just see that she's invaded my loop, I think I'll be much more guarded, and sometimes she could actually get you in the most awkward of situations. So I think she played a role quite well, being a bloodthirsty assassin. Every mission in Deathloop usually ended with you sliding out through the tunnels. I just wish the tunnels were a little bit much more refined so we could know what Cole gets up to in the tunnels. And also, it would have been interesting if the tunnels had a deeper meaning. Maybe they could have explored it in a much more meaningful way. I don't know, but I think it could have been great if all the parts of the island, the different places from Cars Bay to Updown to, and they're all interconnected with the tunnels. The tunnels they ran through the whole island. That would have been interesting. And also there could have been another maybe civilization or another group of people who are living in the tunnels also, who had gotten disenfranchised with the loop. That would have been just another great idea I think they could have added, but sadly they didn't. So hopefully maybe that will be something they can do on Deathloop 2 if they actually go ahead with it. And I think this will be one of the most interesting projects, because if there's a Deathloop 2, I think they already have a fan in me, so I'm gonna have to make sure that I get that. The controls for Deathloop were quite smooth. They ran very well for me. I think even getting a headshot in this game was quite easy. So I think they actually did a great job on that. And also on the other perspective of the actual design, the UI, the different menus, I think they're all tastefully done. Especially I enjoyed the animations that happened once you finish each mission. It was quite smooth, it was quite easy to look at, and it was quite artistic. I think it had a distinctive style, and I can't get that orange out of my mind. That orange and black, how they welded the two together to make such an artistic imprint in the game. So I think from a graphic point of view, this was tastefully done, even with the UI and everything, even the music, everything was done to perfection. I have to say that after playing the whole of Deathloop, I can't say that I played everything. I'm not 100% perfectionist, but the little that I have played, the main mission that is, I really enjoyed the storyline. I enjoyed the game. It did not overstay its welcome, and it was easy for me to actually just go through the story and actually care about the characters. Actually, also it felt like with every action I took with COD, it meant something. And sometimes modern games, it's hard for you to actually care about the characters there, because sometimes the characters are just poorly done, but I think this was well done. And this kind of reminds me when Bethesda was actually still innovating. This reminds me of Skyrim. Skyrim was just an awesome, phenomenal game that I actually had the opportunity to play on a PC, and I always knew that Bethesda meant something in the gaming industry, and it's one of those game companies I hope they return to form. Though I think with the two last releases, that is Redfall and actually Starfield, I still think they have lost some of their mistake, and they've lost the veneer, if you can put it that way, to some of the gaming community. But I still think they can return to form, because I still think that some of the people involved in some of these games are still working there, so I'm very sure they will return to form real soon. So it was a really enjoyable experience, and also I like the concept of how your death is not the end, and how I think more games are being incorporating those dying mechanics, if I can call it that. Because if you look at a game like Returnal, your death means something, and also in Deathloop, your death means something. I mean, the more lives you expend, the more wiser you become. It also reminds me of this other game, Sifu, where whenever you're dying, you're actually getting older. But you have to make sure that you don't get too old so you can't fight anymore. So I think this is a level of innovation that is just important in games that it's been missing in recent releases. And also at the same time, I think games have been quite lazy. They shipping in with bugs and everything, but this was real good. So I would like to thank you for watching till this far, and I won't take too much of your time. Give a like if you can, you can subscribe also, and also I would like your comment. Thank you, and till next time.